Welcome back to the max difficulty achievement run for Prehistoric DLC. After dealing with survival crisis for 20 cycles, we have to do more than just surviving. It's time to actually start preparing for both blasting Demolier and producing meat for Carnivore. The closest and most abundant early meat source in this DLC would be from lums. This lum right in my Great Hall has already laid an egg, so it is ready to be cooked and served right in this Great Hall. However, I have two more lums at the top that seem to be nowhere near laying an egg before the 100 cycle deadline, so I have to tame them to accelerate the reproduction progress. Meanwhile, in the teleporter planet, we are going into the oil biome. Atmosuit's not included yet, but we can't wait for that. The topmost packet of oil is cooler than 72 degrees, so at least it won't scald the duplicants. I am digging through the barrier and just drain the oil to merge with the packet on the bottom. From my estimation, the average weighted temperature should be cool enough to make the combined oil packet non-scalding. But I have to mop up this leftover oil on the floor, as they are not only giving the duplicants soggy feet debuff, but also a new mechanic introduced in Bionic DLC would make duplicants slip in several slippery liquids, which of course includes crude oil. Slipping gives an instant 3% stress, as well as interrupting their movement action. Kind of annoying, isn't it? Also kinda funny that Bionics needs oil to lubricate, but they will be stressed when slipping on oil as well. But here's another annoying thing. Building overheating notification. So what we have here is a hot tub. This thing overheats at 37 degrees. I don't have a use of this thing right now, just a troll by the game. It is time to relocate the two lums into the wrench. Relocate to is a handy feature for manually moving critters or materials. This is a one-time mission, so no point of building a critter pickup or drop-off for this. Once they are tamed, they likely won't have enough calories to lay an egg before they start to starve. Their food is overgrow figs, but I can only collect the wild ones and have very limited supply of these due to locavore. My plan is to disable the dupes from eating ovagro figs and store the collected figs in the ranch fridge. Then, I will monitor the reproduction progress of both lums to see if they need to be fed to successfully reproduce. If they can lay an egg without eating, then they won't get to eat. If they are way too far from laying an egg, they won't get to eat either. They get to eat only if the figs will be the finishing touch for reproducing. If I have kept the figs in a critter feeder, then they will just eat all the figs uncontrolled. There is no way of automating related to reproduction rate or calories of a critter, so I could only do it manually. Also, if my duplicants ever runs into starvation crisis again, I could unban the figs to make it a last resort to save them. Sorry Lum, but you are turning into tough meat. Smoker can only process 6 kilograms of tough meat into tender brisket, but a lum drops 12. So it takes 2 processing, or 2 entire cycles, to process the meat from one lum. Also worth to note, unprocessed tough meat is completely inedible for dupes. That's why we really need to rush the smoker. Without it, we would be starving next to a huge pile of food. The smoker requires peat to operate, which the teleporter planet doesn't have. Blastshot crafting also requires a lot of peat as well, but the home planet has a lot of them, so it's time to enable the peat delivery via the teleporter. The conveyor loader disallows manual delivery by default, so I made sure I have ticked that Allow Manual Use checkbox. After the happy time eating free food in Teleporter Planet, the food has run out here. The smoker in Teleporter hasn't been actually used until now because it requires grilling skill to access, and my only cook is at home. I could also transport the food back to home to cook and teleport back again, but that would be complicating things. Frozen friend Rowan, that starts with 3 skill points, could probably be a temporary cook for now. The pyrotechnic skill needs all 3 skill points, but when the blast shot maker is ready to operate, Rowan would likely get a 4th skill point anyway. The smoker spends the majority of time operating without needing a duplicant, and only needs the cook in the final emptying task phase. Therefore, It's totally fine to have a zero cuisine dupe to be a cook. 4 more achievements completed for entering oil biome, defrosting the frozen friend at teleporter, revealing a concealed gravitas room, and pay the bills, which is to buy an entire branch of the skill tree. I'm kind of puzzled though, because I don't think I have maxed out any branch. We can tell which skills has been learned by the dupes with the crown icon. Yeah, don't look like I maxed out anything. It's a really easy achievement anyway, so I don't feel bad even if it's bugged. The current pool of oil I collected should be almost sufficient to make the blast shots I need. Might have to add in that pool at the top right later though. I have digged deeper and placed the pump at the lowest spot of the pool, so the pump should be able to fetch almost all of the oil eventually without extra digging or terraforming effort. Although now this slug roaming into the oil biome feels even more problematic, so I shall deal with it soon. I just got my first batch of tender brisket ever. That marks the first progress of Carnivore. I have made a fridge to store the figs for lums, but funny that I haven't made any for the dupe food yet. Since I was barely having enough food to survive for the first 20 cycles, food storage is apparently not an issue. I should probably do the fridges now. Maybe other food can rot, but I cannot afford to lose the meat. The smoker outputs carbon dioxide while it's cooking, and it seems the output vent of the smoker is blocked by gas pressure. Must be caused by the pressure of polluted oxygen in this planet. Not a big deal though. I could relocate the vent to the layer where multiple gases mix there. The smoker gas output is kind of little, so as long as it can vent once in a while, it should operate smoothly. A tamed lum has 8.8% of reproduction progress per cycle. Both of these have just 33% of progress, so it takes about 8 cycles of non-starving life to lay an egg. Now all the liquid and food researches are done, it is time to research the oil refinery. When it comes to refining oil to petroleum, you might be thinking about petroleum boilers. They indeed have a much better conversion ratio of 1 unit oil to 1 unit petroleum instead of 2 to 1, and they do not require manual labor. But I'm not really sure if their initial setup can be finished in the 100 cycle time pressure and max difficulty. We have plenty of crude oil at our disposal anyway, so the efficiency isn't a dominating factor right now. Even if we start with zero oil and have to produce them with oil reservoirs and oil wells from scratch, it only takes a single oil well to run for 20 cycles to get enough crude oil for the blast shots via the oil refinery way. Gotta find a place for a fridge and teleporter too. It's polluted oxygen everywhere, but I should be able to use the carbon dioxide from smoker as an advantage and put it down here. By the way, you probably know the atmosphere and oxygen not included could be divided into 3 types: normal, sterile, and polluted. Food stored in different type of atmosphere would have different speed of spoilage. Polluted oxygen count as polluted atmosphere, of course, but every kind of liquid is classified as normal atmosphere. This means food inside polluted water is as good as inside oxygen. If you're ever in swampy planets, full of polluted oxygen, can't build up carbon dioxide yet, and desperate to find anywhere to prevent the food from extreme spoiling inside polluted oxygen, you could just throw them into polluted water as a temporary measure. It sounds really gross, but food being in anything else is better than in polluted oxygen. Time to get rid of the roaming slug. Not only it's eating my metal and converting into hydrogen, but also, if it keeps dwelling inside liquid, it has a big chance to lay a sponge slug egg. Sponge slug is the variant that draws in liquid and would deposit the liquid inside pipes if it has a chance. I wouldn't want it to randomly steal my oil or pump it into my bathroom. The supply teleporters are activated successfully, and the food at teleporter is running low as well, so it is time for Pei, the researcher, to return to home. Chlorine has displaced all the oxygen at return teleporter, but a normal dupe should be able to hold their breath long enough to pass through this zone safely. At least, I didn't even get the suffocation warning. No suffocation, but we got some scalding. This packet of oil is hot, so that wasn't too surprising. but I just have to open up the packet and no longer have to make dupes going in anymore. A slight wound would be healed over time when duplicants are sleeping on cots, so it's nothing to be worried about. My future blast shot industry would likely to be around this area. The peat will come directly from the supply teleporter, the oil will be plumbed from the bottom, and refined metal will also be collected and stored here to reduce the delivery time. Hopefully, a single autosweeper can do all the delivery when I have a duplicant eligible of building it. So this room on the right will be my oil refinery room. I'll liquid lock the entrance so the massive natural gas byproduct will not flood the entire Wait, not this stuff again. Okay. The digging entire map due to lag thingy still wasn't completely fixed after all these years. I hope this part of the map was the only affected part. It would definitely be a disaster if I came back with dupes digging out every floor they can step on. Do I really need a second refinery? A refinery can produce 5 kilograms of petroleum per second, so that's 3 tons per cycle. I only need about 7 cycles of non-stop working to get enough petrol for blasting Demolier. I'll stick to 1 for now. Free power from slugs was nice, but when the real industry operation begins, it will not be even close to enough power to support the industry. I'll start the real power source with a few manual generators. Later, I also will use the metal power banks from Bionics DLC as a power source. I also really need a buffer for the petroleum flowing out of the refinery before it's consumed by the blast shot maker. A liquid reservoir holds 5 tons of liquid, which is more than one entire cycle of refinery operation, so that should be sufficient as long as I have the blast shot making as the top priority. Don't you think this overheat damage thingy is really weird? It's already broken, but it can still pop the notification for another century. That's one of the most permanent thing in this game for sure. But I have a much more important thing to worry about. If you remember, I have 35,000 kilocalories of food here 15 cycles earlier. Despite only 2 dupes are left in the teleporter planet, the food here has run out. The majority of free wild plants and meaty critters are at home, so it's not very surprising, even if the teleporter planet started with so much free food. Rowan has already dropped below the starvation warning line of 1000 kilocalories. It might be too late and impractical trying to fetch from local food source. I will redistribute some food from home for the urgent purpose. It's easier to manage if I just send the entire stockpile of one specific type of food. I'll start with the toasted mimolets. Also gotta uncheck peat for now as I can't control which material they will send if multiple are checked. Double checking and Pei's current errand is to deliver the mimolets. Looking fine it seems? Now I just need to wait for it. Triple checking. Doesn't feel right. Where did the mimolets go? I don't think they have delivered it. Not sure what happened, but I need to yellow alert this thing for emergency. Only 400 kilocalories left for Rowan that will last for 120 seconds, or 40 seconds in real life since I'm playing on triple speed. But the food should be coming in any second, right? Yep, it has just arrived. Now we're talking. Yellow alert really messes up with the schedule and priority of the dupes, so I should turn it off as soon as the emergency is resolved. Calories of the dupes looks fine now, but my both planet combined only has 32,000 kilocalories that will only last for 3 cycles. Things will be much better when the remaining 2 lums reproduce, but before that, I had better continue exploring to free more critters and collect more wild food. Other than digging to the surface, I also want to find the Jawbos. Jawbos are these things that kind of look like a crocodile, and they feed on paku, which can usually be found in the same pool. Their Jawbo fillet could also be processed in the smoker and yield about 22,000 kilocalories per Jawbo. That's like 2/3 of a lum, which is also quite helpful. It might also help if I remove the Jawbo as soon as it lays an egg, so there will be quite a few cycles that the Paku in the same pool will be safe from being eaten, and that means my dupes will be the one that get to eat them. Checking the lums, they are starving at this moment. Their reproduction rate are at 69 and 59% respectively. That will take them about 4 to 5 cycles of growth without starving to reproduce. I still don't have enough figs at this moment, so I could only feed them once in a while to prevent them starving to death. There's a lot of Rex and Dartles next to the teleporters. Rex feed on the little Dartles, and they themselves can be made into about 13,000 kilocalories of tender brisket. That's about 40% of a lum. Not super impressing, but I'll likely need quite a few of these too to collect 400,000 kilocalories of meat. However, Rex is also the only source of feather fiber in Relica. Feather fiber is the equivalent of reed fiber that are used in Atmos suits or carpet tiles. The Rexes spawned initially at world generation comes with 100% of scale growth, which can be immediately sheared for the fiber. However, all Rexes hatched from an egg later will not have full-scale growth no matter they are wild or tame. If I have to actually feed them to grow the scales, that will be tedious at this stage. Therefore, it's important to make sure that I shear the Rexes before I convert them into food. The oil refinery has started operating, but other than collecting the oil, I will also need to dig even deeper to collect the refined iron at the bottom of the planet. I'll probably have Atmos suits by the time I reach the bottom, but regardless, I wouldn't want to bring all those oil down with the digger. So, I have to create a new passage for the dupes to access the bottom. Oil refinery is an operating type of job, but machinery skills has no effect at all on the operation efficiency. It just always produces petroleum at a constant 5 kilograms per second. So I have added a pneumatic door here. When the blast shot maker starts to function, I will deny my best operators to use the oil refinery. Since any dupe can do the oil refining job with exactly the same efficiency, I will reserve my operators to do jobs that machinery level actually matters. Food run out again. I have like 3/4 of a cycle to react. Time for a bunch of maneuvers again. 5 dupes consuming 10,000 kilocalories per cycle is really a huge burden, but if I stayed at 3 until now, I'm not really sure if the demolier blasting progress would be in time. There are some little dartles hanging out into my base. They were once very good for meat when the DLC is still in alpha testing. Not again. When has all the lag digging even happened on this side? Anyway, the dartles have been nerfed significantly before the official release. If I recall right, the meat output is reduced to 1/8 of initial value, only 800 kilocalories of meat per dartle. Not sure if it even worth to deal with these thingy. I really need to get to the Jawbos now. There are some super hard obsidian blocking the way, but my digger has just earned the 3rd skill point for super duper hard digging. So time to get the digger back to home, not only to do the obsidian digging, but also to reduce the food burden on Teleporter temporarily. Rowan is still left behind in Teleporter and is starving already, so I have to send another batch of food now. It will be snack fruit in yellow alert again. Oh, not the Pete again. Shoo! Starvation crisis averted again. I guess we'll just have to play this food redistribution game until at least Locavore is done so I can start growing plants. Meanwhile, some bleach stone started to show up when I am expanding into Jawbo biome. They are an essential ingredients for blast shots if I took the sea comb or the slime route. But I took the petroleum way, so they have no use to me right now. I just have to stop them from releasing chlorine. Chlorine isn't really a problem, but too much chlorine is gonna be a problem. The easiest way to stop bleachstone from releasing chlorine would be to submerge in liquid, for example. Just dig the floor so it drops into the pool below. If there's no convenient pool below it, we can store it in a submerged storage bin, or just relocate manually if the quantity is not much. There are some wheats here ready to be harvested, but there are some granite blocking the way. My digger has just went back home and only Rowan is here. I guess Rowan just also have to learn hard digging now. It has learned too many random skills, so he will likely need to reset the skills later when it comes to blast shot making. There's almost no oxygen here, so the digger Lindsay has to run back and forth to gasp for air. Getting to the Jawbo is just a one-time mission, so I don't think it worth to set up oxygen production here. But there's a small oxygen packet trapped here. If I prioritize opening up this packet, the air should save a lot of time of running back and forth. This got Lindsay some yucky lungs coughing, but at least she can work continuously without leaving now. Other than Jawbos, there are also some nits here. This new critter is annoying literally, as they will sting other critters or duplicants, causing some unhappiness or stress. So, I want to open the packet in the way that the water inside floods the entrance to prevent them escaping directly. The nits is a source of amber when they are eaten by the lure plants next to them, but I'll worry about that later. I came here for this Jawbo. It has already laid an egg, so it is ready to be consumed now. Despite it looks kind of scary, it's still no match against regular dupes. I've also set up a random fish feeder at the teleporter, but I really have not much stuff to feed the Paku. Random wild plant seeds are all I can afford to spare. The chlorine level down here seems to be rising. I will have to both increase oxygen pressure to push it back and get rid of the bleach stone that keeps releasing chlorine. But before that, the food has run out even at home. I really need to finish the digging and deal the final blow to this Jawbo now. Jawbo fillet is edible raw, but its calories value can also be doubled when processed in smoker, so I gotta ban the dupes from eating them to prevent wasting. While the cooking is going on, no time to waste. There's a second Jawbo down there waiting for me. The starvation warning hasn't showed up. That's a good sign. Hopefully they have enough calories in the stomach to last until the smoker finishes. Doesn't look like there's a convenient way to prevent the nit from escaping in this terrain, but I'll just ignore it for now. If the duplicants really started starving, I might have to micro and adjust the consumable tab so that only the most starving dupe is allowed to eat the spare food. By the way, if you would like to discuss about the playthrough or oxygen not included generally, you can find my Discord link in the description. We will see you next video.